It is funny how we usually think about innovation. I mean, when we imagine the future, we tend to picture like space travel or humanoid robots or, I don't know, artificial intelligence writing symphonies.
Yeah, we always look at the grand scale of human achievement.
Exactly. But honestly, the most profound, life-altering shifts are currently happening in the absolute most mundane parts of our daily lives. I'm talking about the inevitable chores, like brushing your teeth or doing the laundry or just acquiring a gallon of milk.
Right, because that squeaky-wheeled shopping cart is being rapidly replaced by a massive, highly automated digital infrastructure.
And it is completely rewiring our local economy.
So welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at a comprehensive industry guide that originated from an app development platform called Enatega, and it details the mechanics and benefits of grocery delivery apps. Okay, let's unpack this. We are shifting from traditional physical grocery shopping to virtual aisles. And the sheer scale of this migration is staggering, especially when you look at the projections. I mean, according to Statista, the grocery delivery market is on track to reach an astronomical $327.91 billion by 2025.
Wow, 327 billion.
Yeah, and this is not just some lingering pandemic-era behavior, where people were forced to stay inside. That $328 billion figure represents a permanent, structural shift in human behavior in retail economics.
It proves that fundamental rule of consumerism, right? Like convenience, once experienced, is almost never surrendered.
Exactly.
Which brings us right to you listening to this deep dive right now. Because whether you are the type of person who meticulously plans out a week of meals on a Sunday afternoon with, like, a color-coded spreadsheet, or you suddenly panic an hour before a dinner party because you realize you have 0 appetizers, this deep dive is going to reveal the hidden gears turning behind your phone screen. We are examining this from both sides, for you, the consumer, and for the local store owner.
And really, the engine driving this entire $328 billion machine is time. Time is the ultimate currency here, and the data completely backs that up. I mean, 77% of U.S. shoppers report that their primary motivation for adopting online grocery shopping is time savings.
Right, 77%. That is a massive majority.
It is, but the concept of, saving time isn't just about avoiding a commute. The traditional grocery run is an incredibly friction-heavy process.
Oh, for sure. You are entirely bound by the physical constraints of the store's operating hours, its geographic location, the weather.
Yeah, and the unpredictable variables of local traffic or getting stuck in a massive checkout line. The digital interface completely upends that dynamic. It shifts the power of scheduling entirely to the user.
Because you have 247 access to build your cart from your couch.
Exactly, and the actual transaction takes milliseconds. Plus, there's the whole contactless delivery aspect. You don't have to interact with anyone. There's no signing receipts. You just drop it at your doorstep.
It is basically like having a personal food teleporter. But, beyond just the speed of it and the flexible payment options like digital wallets or even cash on delivery, there is a really fascinating psychological shift happening.
Oh, definitely.
Like, think about the physical layout of a traditional grocery store. You walk in and you are immediately bombarded by end caps.
Right, those displays at the end of the aisles.
Yeah, the ones completely designed to trigger impulse buys. You are forced to physically walk past rows of candy, chips, and sodas just to get to the dairy section in the back. But with an app, that physical gauntlet just disappears.
You just use a search bar.
Exactly. You use the search bar, you apply nutritional filters. So here's where it gets really interesting to me. Are we actually making healthier choices because of the app's nutritional filters, or simply because we aren't physically walking past the end-of-aisle candy displays? Does the screen basically act as a shield against impulse buying?
What's fascinating here is that it absolutely alters human decision-making. It moves the user from a state of passive susceptibility to what behavioral economists call deliberate purchasing.
Deliberate purchasing. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, when you use an app, you are engaging with an interface that responds to intent rather than temptation.
Yeah.
If you type in oatmeal, the algorithm presents oatmeal. It doesn't force you to walk past the bakery to find it.
Which is a huge relief for anyone trying to stick to a diet.
And furthermore, the technology allows for incredibly granular filtering, vegan, gluten-free, low sodium, which is almost impossible to navigate efficiently in a physical space unless you are like picking up and reading every single label.
Right.
But the most profound psychological shift isn't even about avoiding junk food. It's about price transparency and the reduction of cognitive load.
Okay, let's look at that cognitive load. Because a physical store has price tags everywhere, obviously, but it still feels inherently stressful to keep track of what you are actually spending as you go.
Well, yeah, because keeping a running tally of multiple differently priced items while calculating price per ounce to compare values across different brands, that requires significant active memory.
Yeah, my brain just cannot do that math in the aisle.
Nobody's can.
Yeah.
In a physical store, the prices fluctuate, sales are often conditional on buying a certain amount, and the average shopper experiences this mild anxiety known as checkout shock when everything is finally scanned at the register.
Checkout shock, yes. When you thought it was $60 and it's somehow $120.
Exactly. And the digital interface eliminates this entirely. You see the unit economics up front, and your total budget calculates in real time. If your card hits $100 and your budget was $80, you simply delete an item.
There is no social friction.
Right. No holding up the line, no embarrassment of asking a cashier to void an item in front of a bunch of impatient people. It really democratizes financial control.
But wait, hold on. We need to pause on this idea of financial control because this supposed transparency has a massive blind spot.
Okay, where are you going with this?
Well, we just praise the real-time budget tracker, but the reality of finalizing that digital cart is often a super jarring lesson in hidden economics. You see the price of the cereal, sure, but then you hit checkout and suddenly you are slapped with a delivery fee, a service charge, a heavy item fee, and a driver tip.
Yeah, that is very true.
A $50 grocery run can easily inflate to $70. So what does this all mean for my wallet? Aren't we just trading the stress of physical crowded aisles for the stress of hidden fees and, getting a bruised avocado?
That is entirely fair, and it is the central tension of the entire industry. It really requires a complete reframing of what you are actually purchasing.
Reframing how?
Well, when you tap that final checkout button, you are no longer just buying food. You are procuring a highly orchestrated logistical service.
Ah.
You are employing a complex, multi-layered chain of software, cloud infrastructure, human shoppers, and gig economy drivers to perform manual labor and navigation on your behalf. So the markups and service fees, they aren't arbitrary penalties. They are the direct cost of human labor and logistical routing. You are literally trading your capital to buy back your personal time.
I see. So you are basically hiring a temporary, highly specialized assistant to execute a chore for you.
Exactly.
But, even if we accept that premium, the execution of that chore introduces a completely new kind of friction. And that friction really comes down to relinquishing physical control. Like you mentioned quality control earlier in the source material FAQs. If I am in the produce section, I am inspecting the apples. I am checking the expiration date on the yogurt. When you use an app, you are engaging in this massive sensory surrender.
Sensory surrender is the perfect term for it. You are delegating tactile trust to a stranger, or maybe a warehouse worker, who is inherently incentivized by speed, not quality.
Because they have to move fast to make money.
Right, they're graded on their pick rate, which is how fast they can clear a digital list. And that naturally leads to the bruised avocados and the crushed bread.
Yeah, my bread is always at the bottom of the bag.
Always. But the logistical breakdown goes even deeper when we look at the algorithmic reality of out-of-stock substitutions. This is a massive engineering challenge for these platforms.
Because the algorithm doesn't necessarily understand the nuance of human dietary needs. Like, if I order gluten-free pasta and the app substitutes it with regular wheat pasta just because it happens to be the same brand, that doesn't just ruin a dinner. I mean, it could trigger a severe allergic reaction.
Precisely. And this exposes a real flaw in the database architecture of early grocery platforms. You see, to a basic inventory API, pasta is pasta. It looks at the primary category, sees an empty slot, and just fills it with the nearest adjacent item based on price or brand hierarchy.
Doesn't know any better.
Right. Modern platforms are having to rewrite their entire ontological mapping to understand that a dietary restriction is a hard boundary, not a soft preference. The software has to learn that substituting almond milk with oat milk might be acceptable, but substituting it with dairy milk is a total failure state.
Yeah, that is a disaster for someone who is lactose intolerant.
And this lack of qualitative nuance, plus the limited selections on some platforms or inconvenient delivery delays, it's a huge friction point that drives some consumers right back to the physical store.
Which is totally understandable. And, for those who do decide to revert to traditional shopping to avoid the fees and the substitution roulette, there are ways to mitigate costs. like using local grocery store delivery services instead of the big apps, or leveraging promos on Instacart or Amazon Fresh, or even using membership programs for reduced fees.
Those cost hacks definitely help.
But there is also this fascinating supply chain secret in the source material for when you should actually go to the physical store. The data indicates that Tuesday or Wednesday is consistently the optimal time for physical grocery shopping.
Oh yes, that midweek window is a perfect intersection of logistics and consumer behavior. It's really cool. Over the weekend, grocery stores experienced their absolute highest volume of foot traffic, completely depleting their inventory.
Right, the shelves are bare by Sunday night.
Exactly. So Mondays are typically recovery days. The regional distribution centers are deploying fleets of trucks to restock the aisles. By Tuesday and Wednesday, the shelves are fully replenished. But consumer foot traffic is at its absolute lowest.
Because everyone is at work.
Yeah. To drive revenue during this dead zone, stores initiate their weekly markdowns and promotional cycles. So you get the highest inventory selection at the lowest possible price, simply by understanding the back-end rhythm of the supply chain.
That is such a good tip. But, understanding that back-end rhythm is exactly why we need to flip our perspective now. Because if you think navigating the system as a consumer is complex, the reality for the local store owner is basically a matter of sheer existential survival.
It really is.
We have to look behind the virtual cart. If the cost of convenience is so high and the logistics are this complicated, how does an independent grocery store actually integrate this technology without going bankrupt?
Well, to fully understand the store owner's playbook, you have to look at how an order mechanically moves through the digital ecosystem. Let's abandon the basic idea of just, checking out and look at the step-by-step software architecture.
Okay, let's walk through it.
When a user creates an account, they aren't just giving a name and an email. They are establishing a permanent data node. As they shop and build their cart, every tap, dwell time, and search query is logged.
So the app is watching everything.
Everything. Then, when checkout is initiated, the app doesn't just process payment. Order fulfillment kicks in, and the app acts like an air traffic control tower. In a fraction of a second, the application programming interface, the API, pings the store's inventory database to confirm the physical existence of the items.
So a personal shopper or a warehouse team gets the alert to pick and pack the order.
Right. And simultaneously, a routing algorithm calculates the distance between the store and the customer, pings the GPS locations of nearby gig workers for delivery by a rider, estimates the travel time based on local traffic data, and dynamically adjusts the delivery fee based on that immediate supply and demand.
It is basically a localized, real-time stock exchange just for getting a bag of groceries across town.
That's a great way to put it.
And when you look at that level of engineering, the question becomes, how does a single independent grocer compete? I mean, if the big players like Amazon Fresh already have massive warehouses and billion-dollar digital infrastructures, doesn't an independent store owner have to adopt an app just to survive? It sounds less like a competitive edge and more like a basic survival requirement in this $327 billion market.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are absolutely right. Adopting an app is a critical, future-proof strategy. It is a non-negotiable requirement. Before these platforms existed, a local store's customer base was strictly dictated by geography.
Right, the neighborhood.
Yeah, their market was limited entirely to the people willing to drive a 3-mile radius, park their car, and walk inside between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. An app entirely obliterates that physical boundary. The store's customer base expands exponentially, limited only by the maximum radius a driver is willing to travel.
So the physical storefront becomes a hybrid.
Yes. It is simultaneously a retail space and a micro-fulfillment center.
But local shops don't have the capital to build that air traffic control system themselves, so they rely on these third-party platforms. Which brings us to the revenue models. How do these apps actually make money off this convenience?
They do it through a highly optimized, multi-tiered revenue model. They break it down into 3 distinct channels. First, the delivery and service fees paid by the consumer, which we discussed. These can be a flat rate or based on distance or size.
Right, the fees we all complain about.
Exactly. Second, there is a commission fee. The platform takes a negotiated percentage of the total order value directly from the store owner's margin for facilitating the transaction.
Which means the store owner makes slightly less per item, but I guess they make up for it in sheer expanded volume.
Exactly the trade-off. But the third revenue stream is perhaps the most lucrative, and it perfectly mirrors traditional retail, and that's digital advertisement.
Oh, charging brands for app placement.
Yes. In a physical store, Large brands pay slotting fees to ensure their cereal is at eye level on the shelf. In the app, that shelf is digitized. Brands pay massive premiums to the app developers to ensure their products appear at the very top of the search results when a user types in a generic term like coffee or bread.
So it's basically search engine optimization, but explicitly for groceries.
And it works so well because the interface is inherently constrained. I mean, a phone screen only shows 4 or 5 items at a time. The real estate is incredibly scarce, making that top slot immensely valuable.
That makes total sense.
But despite the commissions and the loss of some margins, the operational benefits for the store owner are revolutionary. Primarily because the app acts as a smart assistant, completely automating inventory management.
Let's dive into that automation, because the traditional method of inventory management in an independent grocery store seems honestly incredibly archaic. I picture a manager literally walking down the aisle with a clipboard, visually checking to see if they're out of canned tomatoes.
It is highly chaotic and incredibly prone to costly human error. And in an industry where profit margins famously hover around 1 to 2%, a stockout isn't just an inconvenience, it is a permanent loss of revenue.
Because you cannot sell an item that isn't on the shelf.
Exactly. And a frustrated customer will simply go to a competitor. What the app provides is real-time inventory updates. Because every single transaction is processed through the digital API, the software tracks low stock to minimize errors and replaces that chaotic manual management.
So it monitors the velocity at which items are being sold.
Yes, meaning it knows not just that you sold 50 cans of tomatoes, but how fast you sold them over the last 4 hours. And it uses that data to trigger automated reorder alerts long before the physical shelf is ever empty.
That is brilliant.
And it also helps build long-term digital loyalty in a highly saturated market. These apps are designed to be sticky ecosystems.
Sticky meaning the switching costs are psychologically too high for the consumer to leave.
Precisely. Once you've downloaded a specific local store's app, inputted your credit card info, saved your physical address, and most importantly, populated a favorites list of your weekly staples, the friction of abandoning that setup to rebuild it on a competitor's app is just massive.
Oh, I would never do it. It's too much work.
Right. The convenience traps the consumer in a localized loyalty loop. The store owner secures a digitized recurring revenue stream from a customer who might never physically step foot inside their building again.
It is genuinely wild to step back and look at the sheer density of the technology required for me to basically sit on my couch and order a bag of chips without putting on shoes. We are talking about predictive algorithms, real-time API inventory tracking, gig economy dispatch routing, and dynamic pricing models, all firing simultaneously over a $3 item.
It's an incredible web of logistics.
It really is. So let's bring all this together. The next time you open your phone and tap a button to order a carton of eggs, realize that you are not just buying breakfast. You are actively participating in a highly orchestrated, incredibly vast automated ecosystem. You are navigating a permanent structural shift in retail where your personal time, your behavioral data, and your demand for frictionless convenience are the true commodities being traded.
You are engaging in the complete digitization of human sustenance. And, understanding how much data this ecosystem relies on raises a fascinating and perhaps slightly unsettling question to think about.
Oh, what's that?
Well, we just broke down how these smart assistants track inventory velocity for the store owner. But remember, they're also tracking consumer velocity. The algorithms know your exact household consumption rate. They know precisely how many days it takes you to finish a gallon of milk, or when you typically restock your coffee beans based on those dietary filters and habits we talked about.
Right, the data profiles are already built.
Exactly. So how far are we from a future where we don't even have to open the app, where the interface itself becomes obsolete? We are rapidly approaching a reality where grocery shopping transforms from an active, deliberate chore into a passive, predictive subscription.
Wait, like an AI just sends us what we need before we even realize we're out of it?
Yes. Imagine a smart home integration where an AI monitors your consumption, anticipates your depletion rates, and autonomously dispatches a delivery drone to your porch. The groceries simply arrive.
Yeah.
The ultimate friction-free existence.
The app becomes completely invisible. The system just knows you need snacks for the dinner party before you even send the invitations. That is an incredible technological leap, but it also forces us to ask how much of our daily decision-making we are willing to hand over to a predictive algorithm. It completely redefines what it means to be a consumer. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the everyday technology you interact with. Keep looking for those hidden automated gears turning behind your screens, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.